hold music. You want to avoid it, and so do your customers. So say goodbye to hold music and hello to faster, smarter support with Salesforce. Make service more personal and agents more productive using built-in trusted AI. Then watch costs and wait times drop and satisfaction soar. Support customers in a whole new way with Service GPT. Learn how at salesforce.com/servicegpt.
Welcome to Nature-backed podcast of Single Earth. In this series, we are talking with investors about their vision of the new green world. My name is Tarmo Virki. In this episode, I am talking with Agate Freimane from Norrsken VC on impact investing and how the line between the impact investing and the classical investing is blurring. Enjoy the show. Thank you, Agate, for joining us for the Nature-backed.
Thank you for having me.
We are here at Tech Chill in Riga to record this episode, enjoying the cold spring weather. You're originally Latvian?
Yes, that's right. So originally Latvian, but at the moment based in Stockholm with Norrsken VC. So I'm always happy to come back here because it really speaks to my roots.
Tell us a few words about Norrsken. How it was born, and what's the philosophy behind Norrsken?
Of course, would be happy to. So Norrsken was born maybe 6 or so years ago, and it was started by one of the three co-founders of Klarna. And the idea behind Norrsken is that we fundamentally believe that it's the entrepreneurs that are the solution to some of the world's most pressing problems. So Norrsken is all about helping and enabling these impact tech entrepreneurs. We're really building a thriving ecosystem that allows these entrepreneurs to succeed. And what that means in practice is that today we operate houses that are home to these entrepreneurs. We have now thriving places in Stockholm as well as Rwanda, and more to be added soon. We run different kind of programs such as accelerator program to really kickstart, help these entrepreneurs kickstart. And we also, of course, invest. And I'm one of the general partners at Norrsken VC. And us specifically, we're focused on investing in seed, Series A companies all across Europe. But we're really looking for this uncompromising focus on impact, but equally uncompromising focus on generating top-tier financial returns, because we really believe that impact and financial returns go hand in hand.
It's been a kind of discussion of many guests here on the show, how those two things go together or how well they go together. I would say there's slight difference of opinion. Maybe some older school VCs are a little bit clearer in the fact that our main target is to bring financial returns to the LPs. If impact comes on top, that's nice, but it's not horribly necessary. To the other end, where somebody is saying that we are purely focused on impact, and we know that if it's great impact case, it usually actually makes good money also for the LPs.
Yeah, and I mean for us, it's sort of the angle which we come from. So when we started to invest roughly 5 years ago, and in the beginning we had our kind of sandbox vehicle where we really wanted to test out what the strategy is going to be, and we just knew that we want to back impact tech entrepreneurs. And in the beginning we were open to doing both for-profit, non-for-profit, because our ultimate goal was to maximize impact. And in early days we maybe made some investments that were stronger, or if there is such thing as, maybe in the short term, stronger on the impact rather than the financial returns. But then we very quickly realized that those companies, they didn't scale. So even if you have a very deep, meaningful impact, if you don't have a strong business model, you're not able to attract capital, you're not able to grow, so hence you don't really scale your impact. So today, we really don't think there is a trade-off between the two, because we firsthand saw that unless you have a tremendous financial potential, there is a limit to how far you can scale the impact. It's only when you have this incredible financial potential and if you back businesses where impact is at the very core of the business, that's when you also get the scalable impact. So for us, it was kind of coming from it that way. And then today the strategy is like uncompromising impact, uncompromising financial potential.
How do you define that uncompromising word? That sounds very strong, I would say.
Yeah, like I would say, I mean, the uncompromising how when it comes to impact, we really careful about what investments we pursue. I mean, in a nutshell, we want to back solutions that have positive impact for people and planet. What that means one layer down is that they have to address at least one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that's kind of our first filter. So once the company has gotten through that filter, then we really start our impact due diligence, and we will really, scratch beneath the surface. There have been cases where we're like, oh, this is impact company, and then you start to talk to researchers, people in the market, and then you realize, oh, we actually didn't think that there are these unintended side consequences that we actually didn't really think about. So we're very thorough in the due diligence process, and then the third step is also that we measure. It's very important for us to measure impact, and to the point where we're linking our carried interest in the fund with impact targets as well as financial targets. And that's the last step where it's uncompromising, because we're taking it from kind of one end to another. And when it comes to financial returns, it's probably similar things that you'll hear from all the all the other VCs, but how we measure ourselves on that is, we look at the funds that come in next to us or after us, and we really aspire to be on the cap table alongside the top tier performing funds.
The impact, I mean, is it, do you kind of, what's impact for you?
So it's positive impact on people and planet, and the unit that you measure can differ from business to business. Climate is our biggest bucket, and in climate space it tends to be easy because ultimately it all boils down to CO2 reductions in most of the case. The people bucket, it's probably has to be more defined for each individual company. I mean, if you take education as an example, EdTech, and then your impact KPIs become, how many students have you reached, how many classrooms have you reached, but the real impact KPIs, by what percentage have you, improved the outcome of the education, by what percentage have the results improved as a result of better tools.
In addition to climate, EdTech, is there any other kind of big fields in your portfolio?
So yeah, climate, EdTech, health and well-being is a very big theme. Also sort of transparency and accountability, because sustainable decisions often start with also information and transparency and traceability. So those are very big themes. To name a few, but we constantly keep adding more of those.
Looking from the climate sector overall, I'm hearing from many people that the sector has been over the last 12, 18, 24 months so hot that the getting hotter planet can't really match the sector, or that to the level that there is more money in the sector than there are startups in the sector. You seeing something similar?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, but I would say it's a very positive development for all the planet and people. And maybe just a kind of sidetrack, it's really 5 years ago, us as an impact investor, we were still seen as the kind of the exotic animal on the field, and we were talking to all the usual suspects, but sometimes let's say we were keen to make friends sometimes than the vice versa. And today, now that impact is trending, we're getting calls from people that we used to look up saying like, hey, you're the impact investor. We really want to pick your brain on this and this. So we've definitely seen how the rise in popularity of impact investors. There is a lot of money, but I would say I would say that there is still a lot more room to deploy that, and I would not say that there is lack of opportunities. I think we're just starting to scratch the surface of what's possible, and quite frankly, and the one thing is that also a lot of companies in climate tech are more hardware, more capital intensive. And maybe if someone says that there's just not enough startups in the space, it's also because a lot of entrepreneurs thought that there's no point starting these businesses, that there is no capital, and it's kind of what comes first. You know, exactly the chicken egg. Do the startups come first or capital? Maybe at the moment there is a lot of capital, but that's just going to inspire more entrepreneurs to actually dare to start businesses in those sectors.
Many people have been speaking about how climate is kind of longer project often than the I don't know, old school VC's time frame of 10-year fund and needing to get out before the 10 years are over and so on. Coming from the impact VC, do you also have a 10-year time frame challenge or?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think it's a question that we're talking a lot about in the VC space, where the VC investors, ultimately what do we like to invest in? We like to invest in huge opportunities, huge TAM, and there's no bigger TAM than bringing energy, sustainable energy to people, to the global, or figuring out carbon removal solutions as some examples. So it ticks a lot of the VC boxes, except for the time frame. But I really see that the market is changing, and I think there are more VCs tapping into it, and that's naturally starting to create new exit opportunities. We see secondary trading, and we've seen projects that have 20-year horizon. So of course it's way too long to be part of the whole ride for most commercial VCs, but we see that secondary market is opening up. Maybe a bad time to talk about SPACs, given that they have been taking the beating in the market, and it's not necessarily the flavor of the month, but SPACs was also sort of, kind of a new invention to actually crystallize and realize returns within the VC time span. So my personal take is that it's still really, really early days, but I think the VC universe recognizes the opportunity but also the challenge of the time frame, but it's slowly starting to be solved by new ways of sort of still realizing the liquidity, or passing the baton from one phase of investors, passing the baton on to the next wave, second phase of investors.
Eventually, the logic that if there's an opportunity, the money will find a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. A really, really good point. And to be honest, ultimately it should always be about the fundamentals. I mean, if you have really strong business fundamentals, as a shareholder, investor, or as a founder, you'll always have options if you have a promising business with very strong fundamentals. So the same goes also for these impressive longer timeline projects.
You said that you're kind of looking at the whole of Europe. If you would need to, describe what's in the climate field, the situation in Europe today. Any kind of big trends, big changes, how would you describe it?
I really, really think that Europe is at the forefront of the climate tech movement globally. What I see right now is also Europe is at the forefront of, let's say, the public sector and the regulatory environment, for taxonomy being one. And so we see in Europe, more so than anywhere else in the world, regulation pushing big and old school businesses on the path of sustainability. But the reality is that a lot of these businesses, they don't have the tools to achieve these. And then it's up to the startups to fill that gap, to actually enable the industries to shift to more sustainable. So everything in that space as a result of regulation, so carbon accounting, carbon credits, etc. So big opportunity. I'd say in software, that's probably one of the most exciting things happening. There's a lot of very interesting momentum also in the hardware software intersection. Really excited about carbon removal. I think it's interesting how market has grown for that substantially. Electrification, I know Tesla was born in the US, but actually it feels that there is a lot happening in Europe. We're one of the investors in Northvolt and Heart Aerospace and Einride, one of the frontiers in the European electrification movement.
Absolutely. The European electrification movement, that sounds rather fascinating. time to sort it out, the European electrification. It's interesting how in many kind of startup sectors we've seen that Europe is somehow the laggard, the one running behind the US, but this one is different.
Yeah, it is different, and I mean, to be honest, I have to be aware of my own filters and bubble. I mean, we're based in Stockholm, and also I would go as far as saying that Europe is leading the sustainability trend globally, but I also think that in the forefront of Europe is Nordic. So of course I'm biased, and
it's totally fine.
and I obviously live and breathe that bubble every day.
But this electrification of Europe trend is happening at a time when we have a kind of new Cold War, or the new Iron Curtain being set up between the East and the West, or the Russia and the rest of Europe. How do you see this? I mean, how massive is the push for that electrification to be even faster?
It's if I can make bold, maybe naive predictions is I mean, there is really no maybe it's the wrong way to say that there is no silver lining to war. War is the worst thing that could possibly happen to us. At the same time, like I think 10 years, 20 years from now, we're going to look back at this moment in history, and I think we're going to pinpoint by saying that, wow, that this was such a shock factor that really accelerated renewables, electrification, more so than it would have by factors compared to what would have happened if kind of organically. So I think I really do think that we're going to look back at this point in time and say this was the year when things really accelerated.
Because I mean, the underlying trends have always been there. The oil and gas industry have always known that their end is coming. They've only known that and they try to prolong until the end in a way. But yes, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and it's interesting. I mean, it's in our human nature. Like the basics of human nature is to be extremely creative and be actually extremely resourceful. And it's now is a time when we need resourceful. We need to innovate, and it's sometimes when you're truly pressed in the corner that's when some of the best innovations are born. Because in a nutshell, we're problem solvers. It's
Absolutely.
So I have a lot of faith in us being able to solve.
But at the same time, this problem solving, I mean, it's really in the human nature to solve also the problem of being able to kind of continue as is, that to avoid any changes. I mean, I'm definitely by nature that kind of a problem solver. So I think the kind of looking back over the last few years, one could also say that the world has been really working on not to change anything for the oil and gas industry. So it needs kind of outside shock to move faster or actually change things.
Yeah, and we have that. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, maybe not apples to apples comparison, but it's like every now and then it's like you resist the change, but then you give in eventually. I mean, comparing phones, right? Not everyone switched to smartphones overnight, and even if you heard people saying, "No, I don't want smartphone. I don't want to, complicate things." At some point, you just had to switch. Otherwise, you can't pay your, electricity bill because it's app-based these days.
Yes,
and at some point, it just and let's hope that the same happens here. That it's even though we're resisting change, we have no choice. We just have to.
If you look forward, kind of from the Norrsken VC perspective, I don't know, in the next 6-12 months time frame, what's your kind of biggest focus areas, or what will you be working on mostly?
I mean, we're always focused. From Norrsken VC side, we're always focused on finding the next impact unicorn, as we say, company that has the $1 billion potential, as well as company that can positively affect 1 billion people. So that always is going to remain the number one priority, is that just to keep hunting for those impact unicorns. Hunting sounds bad.
I was just thinking
befriending the impact unicorns.
But the unicorns don't exist really, right? So they're not real.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's something I was, the other sidetrack. It's like why we coined the term unicorn was because it was so rare, and these days it's not that rare anymore. The bar has lowered. Though I think impact unicorn is still pretty rare, and the way I see, the company that can really change the lives of 1 billion people, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't aspire to. But it's a really high bar.
Do we have any of them?
I mean, depends. Like it's. I mean, to give you an example, it's the way also we actually think about impact is that you have the direct, immediate impact as a result of the company, but then you have the systematic change. I mean, one good example actually is Tesla. I mean, the short-term impact KPI is how many Teslas did you sell? So how many diesel or petrol cars did you take out of circulation? But the long-term impact is the systematic change that now every automaker in the world is switching to electric fleets. So when we invest, we want to see that. We call it the theory of change framework. Is like, okay, in the short term, let's see how many people you can affect positively. But actually, is there a roadmap to that systematic change that's ultimately going to impact the lives of 1 billion people?
And for Tesla, it kind of could be that.
Exactly, because I mean, it's 7 billion people in the world, so it's and they're all going electric.
Exactly,
so.
and probably a few billion cars, right?
Yeah, exactly.
True. Good. Thank you, Agate, for this discussion here in sunny Riga, and good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks. Join us again for the next episode. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please give us a good rating and leave the feedback in your podcast player so others will find it too. We will be back next week. Turn on to Nature-backed podcast.
Are you a fan of classic cinema or a young person who wants to discover the best films of all time? Do these legendary movies still hold up?
On the Generation Film podcast, two guys who grew up when movies dominated the culture share a great film with a panel of young movie lovers and see how it plays for today's generation.
We discuss changes in storytelling styles, representation,
The making of each film, its initial reception, and how its meaning has changed over the years.
Join us as we explore cinema classics across generations on Generation Film.
Electricast.
Do you want to hear your favorite R&B, soul, and throwback music? Well, download the free Autolist app, search for Vibe 95, and click on the icon for the home for R&B, soul, and throwback music, Vibe 95.
Electricast.